Hello and welcome to the CircuitPython Weekly for May 20th, 2019. I'm Scott. I'm one of the CircuitPython folks paid by Adafruit. They're a sponsor of the development, so check out adafruit.com. This is a meeting that we run every week where those of us who are paid to work on CircuitPython get to meet up with everybody else who's interested in CircuitPython and talk about what we're working on. The meeting is run in 5 parts. It's run on our Discord channel. So before I go over the parts, let me tell you how you can join. It's normally at on Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Note, next week will be on Tuesday rather
It's
than
awful
on Monday.
quiet.
Um, am I quiet for anybody else?
Not hearing anything.
No, I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Charles, you might want to restart if you can hear me. Um, okay. It seems like it's good. The recording looks okay too. Yeah, so normally Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Next week will be on Tuesday due to the U.S. holiday, so please be aware of that. Kattni will be running the meeting as I will be gone. The meeting happens on our Discord server. If you want to join our Discord server, you can go to the URL adafru.it/discord. And that will pop you into our Discord channel or our Discord server. You'll see a CircuitPython text channel, which is where we chat, along with a CircuitPython voice channel, which is where we all hop into for the meeting. Everybody is welcome to join, regardless of what you're working on, CircuitPython-wise or even not CircuitPython-wise. We're happy to have folks just let us know what they're building. This meeting is recorded, so beware that your voice is being recorded along with a capture of the screen, which I just realized I had not scaled up. So let me do that. And then this meeting is run in 5 parts. We have our community news part that Phil from Adafruit usually talks about, but I think he's out this week. We do State of CircuitPython and its libraries, which is a tag team between Kattni and I. And then we have Hug Reports, which is a chance for you to say thank you to folks for the things that they've been working on. And that is done as a round robin. So I will start and then we'll go through the list of folks in the Discord voice chat. If you're unable to make it, you can always put your notes in the comments and we'll read those off. If you don't want to speak or are lurking, let us know in the text channel and or the notes, and we'll either skip you or just read off your Hug Reports if it's text only. And then if none of those are true, and if you just want to speak, we'll call on you and give you a shot to say whatever you like. That's the way our round robins work. So the section after Hug Reports is called Status Updates, and it's run the same way. It's also a round robin. And it's basically a couple minutes about what you've been working on, and what you're working on, and what you've been working on in like the last week-ish, and what you plan on working on in the coming week. And lastly, if there are any larger topics that you want to talk about, we try to do them after status updates in our section called In the Weeds. And that In the Weeds is just a long form, like whatever topics or things we want to discuss about will be covered there. So I think that's it. The recordings go up on podcast services and on the Adafruit YouTube, which is youtube.com/Adafruit. If you do miss it, that's a great way to keep up. And with that, I will take a time code in the notes so that folks can skip around, and we'll go into community news. So first item on community news is CircuitPython is on the Python podcast, also known as Podcast Dunder and Knit. The title is Hardware Hacking Made Easy with CircuitPython, episode 219, or 212, sorry. And there's a link in the notes to that podcast. That's a podcast I did last week, so it's me talking all about CircuitPython. The next item on community news is a link to the Language Summit reports from PyCon. So the Language Summit was a bunch of core devs getting together and a few people giving presentations. They had somebody come with the sole purpose of cataloging and documenting what happened there. So the kind of report recap of what was said there is up on the blog now. That's called The History of CircuitPython, which is what it was titled. And it's a good recap. I read through it, so check that out. We just wanted to note a couple Kickstarters that are coming out, and a couple of them could run CircuitPython. So if you back them, post in the comments and ask for it. Anything that has an @SAMD 21 or 51 or an NRF 52840, really easy to get CircuitPython support on those things. So if you do see Kickstarters, let us know, reach out to them and say you want to see CircuitPython on their stuff. One example is Pocket Screen, which is the SAMD 21 G18, which we already support. And so we've reached out to them to add a new board definition for it. And there's a link to the notes with exactly how that can happen. Lastly, there's a bunch of events for the upcoming newsletter. Most are all looking for talks on Python on hardware. So if folks want to kind of level up and start participating, giving presentations to your local groups or events is a great way to tell people about CircuitPython and obviously what you think of it, hopefully positive. So yeah, that's our community news for today. Let's go on to the state of CircuitPython and its libraries after I take another time code. All right, so overall, we had 31 pull requests merged, which still boggles my mind as something we're used to now. It's just epic that it's just growing and growing. We had 13 different authors for those 31 PRs. Shout outs to D Harada, Chewy Turtle, Fez the Dev, and Maker CIC, as folks I believe are relatively new to it. So thank you to those folks. And also thank you to the 9 reviewers who did all of those reviews. We really appreciate it. As I said before, reviewing is actually one of the best ways to get involved in CircuitPython. Generally, you see some code that somebody wants to change, download it, see if it works, look through the code, see if it makes sense, and give feedback on it. That's super duper helpful. So that's pull requests. And then for issues, we had 12 closed by 6 people and 7 opened by 5 people, which were net down again, which is great. In general, we want to at least keep on top of the new issues that we're having. So the fact that we are net 5 closed is a great place to be. Overall, we've been kind of on this cusp of getting 4.0 out the door. We'll talk about that later. I want to talk about that in the weeds, but I think we're to the point where we're ready to get 4.0 out the door potentially today. So think about that. Think about whether there's anything you think should stop that from happening. But I know for myself, and I think for Dan as well, our focus on what we've been working on has shifted to stuff we plan on releasing like after 4.0. So that's a really good sign when we're not chasing down any more bugs in the actual 4.0 code. So feeling pretty good about it. Okay, and let me go on to the core. This is more details about the development of CircuitPython as it pertains to the C core, and I'll kick it over to Kattni in just a bit to talk about everything else, all the libraries and stuff. So in the core, we had 18 pull requests merged from 5 different authors. And then we had 5 reviewers for those as well. So thank you to everybody there. And again, you can check out the notes for more details if you want to know all of that info. We had 6 open pull requests. They're listed there. Again, check the notes if you want to see them. We had 2 closed issues by 1 person and 2 open by 1 person as well. So we're net 0. For a total of 162 open issues. Again, the notes have a link. We have 5 active milestones. The ones that we've kind of been paying attention to are the ones without a milestone, which was 1, and the 4.0 milestone, which has 0 open issues. 4.x has 36 open issues. I've been debating whether we'll put a 4.1.x, 4.2.x, but I think we might just pull out of 4x and release kind of as we see fit. So that's kind of interesting. Download stats by board. We've got lots of boards, so check the notes for details. we have 2 releases out. We have 3.1.2 as our latest stable until later today, hopefully. It's had 15,857, which I think we were in 15,000 last week as well. So definitely kind of saturated there. And 385 downloads of 4.0 RC3, which is a good chunk. And if we do stabilize to 4.0, we'll see a big boost next week. And then download stats by language, primarily English, a few Pirate, a few French, usually German's up there too. But yeah, again, check the notes for details. And with that, let's kick it over to Kattni for libraries.
Thanks, Scott. All right, so with the libraries this week, we had 13 pull requests merged from 9 different authors. Again, calling out D. Harada, Chewy Turtle, Fez the Dev, and Digital Maker CIC as new folks, and 7 reviewers. And I want to call out D. Harada again. I added Dylan actually
Not
last
hearing
week
her.
to the circuit.
That's on you, Charles. I can hear it just fine.
To the CircuitPython librarians role on GitHub, and he has jumped right into the deep end. There have been all kinds of pull requests, issues closed, PRs merged, releases done. It's been great. So thank you very much for joining us with that. We have 38 open pull requests, which is amazing. And also we need to go through those. So those are all listed in the notes. If you're interested in helping out, take a look at those. We're going to update the circuitpython.org/libraries page today. And then that will have an updated list as well. So you can check out the contributing link on that page to find all the information about the libraries. And we had 10 issues closed by 5 people and 5 opened by 5 people. So we are down. As for open issues, we have 102. The link to the page is in the notes. I'll also post it in Discord. Once that's updated, you'll have a more recent picture of where we're at right now. It's a little bit stale. So give us, till the rest of the day and then take a look at that if it's something you're interested in doing. And that's where we are at the libraries.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kattni. All right, let's move on to Hug Reports. I'll take a time code. So Hug Reports, just to reiterate, is a chance for you to say thank you to folks for the work that they've been doing. This is really great just because I know for me personally, when I prep for the meeting, it makes some space for me to just think about the awesome things that are happening within our community. So I'm very, it makes me feel better. So I think it's a really good exercise to do, and I hope other folks feel that way as well. So let me just start. First, I wanted to say thank you to Elvis EPX for making a PR to add PS2 support, so like PS2 mice and keyboards, and then blocking it up too. So there's a link here to an article about how to add C modules to CircuitPython, which is really neat and something I think is underutilized. I think it's a great way to get performant code in there. Thank you to Nina, NNJA, Chewy Turtle, and Sean Tiber for continuing to make things for the PyPortal and test it out. Saw lots of stuff happening on Twitter with that. So thanks to those 3. Thanks to Jerry N, even though I think he's super busy these few weeks right now, for helping out on the forums. Specifically, there was somebody I was trying to help about some mysteriously appearing files on their drive. And Jerry hopped in to say, like, hey, I think that's a Mu thing, an old Mu thing. So got that all fixed up. So thanks to Jerry for that. Thanks to Matt Land for improving the palette docs. Really appreciate that. Thanks to Chris Osterwood for the USB hub support, or his USB hub board, the Capable Robots USB hub. It runs CircuitPython, which is super neat. And the board def just got in, so that's super exciting. And lastly, thanks to Carlos for work on supporting the RGB status LEDs. That's actually the case where there's no controller IC on the RGB. It's just 3 anodes or cathodes that you PWM. So he's been working on that. That should get us RGB status support on the particle boards, which are hooked up that way. So thanks to Carlos for working on that. And with that, let's circle around to Brent. Oh, Brent's not in. All right, I'll read it off. So Brent was out last week. I guess, he's in New York and they're having internet trouble at the moment, so that would explain it. He was out last week, so these hug reports are a bit delayed. So he says, thanks to Tan Newt, Katney, Sedacious, Maker Melissa, and Dan H for PyCon. It was a great time to meet all of you and hang out to discuss CircuitPython for a few days. Hugs to Zach Heschelman, who I believe is Chewy Turtle, for getting his PyCon Sprint project up and running and documented. It was a PyPortal project which displayed his latest tweets. And hugs to Maker Melissa for joining Adafruit. And let me go on to... Can't type this morning. Carter is missing the meeting and says group hugs to all. And C. Grover is lurking, so we'll go to Charles.
I have a group hug in general, but I have a question that is more appropriate for In the Weeds, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay. We'll note that down.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to Dan.
Hi. Also, welcome Maker Melissa. That's great. Lawrence YY, who's in the forums, noticed an issue with the round function, which is actually a MicroPython issue, kind of. If you disable rounding things to negative number of digits, which is basically how you get round to the nearest, say, 100 or 10, as opposed to the nearest something to the right of the decimal place.
Mm-hmm.
Stopped working, so I fixed that and I posted an issue in MicroPython. Thanks to Kevin Walters for sort of auditing all our USB PIDs and noticing that several of them were wrong. So we have a PR to fix that in the latest RC, or in what will be after the current RC. And thank you, Scott, for doing RC.3 last week, getting us really close to GA. Okay, thanks. Okay.
For those of you who don't know, GA is general availability, I believe. All right, let's go to D. Harada. D. Harada says, thanks, Katney, for adding me to the GitHub organization. Melissa, you're unmuted at the moment. In the small amount of time, I've definitely learned a lot more Python by looking at PRs and issues. Thanks to Sedacious for the MCP 230XX modules. Also, thanks to everyone who reviewed my PRs. So thank you, D. Harada. Doc Malo is text only, so I'll read those off. Thanks to Jerry N and Anecdata for testing my latest build of the Nina firmware. Nino. And thanks to Lady Ada for asking for changes to a PR I made against the ESP32 spy library that caused me to learn new Python and programming constructs. Sweet. And then I think Jason is lurking. Yeah. Jason is lurking, so we'll go to Katney.
Oh my gosh, not used to muting Discord.
I know, right?
So, giant hug to Maker Melissa for joining Adafruit full time. I'm really glad that I could be a part of that for you, and I'm so excited for you to join us. Hug to Sedacious for helping me with newsletter stuff on Friday. A late hug report to Mike B for doing my newsletter stuff while we were at PyCon. Thank you very much for that. To D. Harada for becoming a CircuitPython librarian and for all your hard work. And to everyone providing support on Discord, we've had an influx of new people and they've been receiving the help and support that they need. It's been really great to see. I know we try to bring new people in, and when they do, it's always good to see that the community is welcoming and supportive. And so I was really happy to see that. So thank you very much for that.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Katney. Kinger North and KJW are lurking, so we will go to Maker Melissa.
Okay, first of all, a big hug to Lemore and PT for allowing me to start full time.
Yay.
A hug for Katney for all your help and support. Hug to you, Scott, for all your help, and a hug for Sedacious for helping me with ordering the right part to fix my Pi badge.
Nice. All right. Thanks, Melissa. And let's go to Mike.
Yeah, I'm actually on today.
Yay.
Yay.
Glad you can make it.
Yeah, thanks. I want to throw my hat in for Maker Melissa. I think you do really awesome work, and I'm really glad that you are going to be on the team. Forward to that. Thanks to everybody at Adafruit and all the people that met with the folks at PyCon. I kind of held down the fort here, so and I've been monitoring all the PRs that go through. I'm on the group list, and I'm just continually impressed about how many people in the community are kicking the tires and noticing things and commenting on it, because every bug that we quash and every feature we add just helps people around the world. So it's a big community effort. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mike. All right, let's go to Sedacious.
Hey, so first off, again, congrats to Maker Melissa, and thanks for giving me the early tip. I knew it was going to happen eventually, but I'm so happy it happened when it did. So it's going to be super great to have you on the team. I'm super excited. Also, a hug to Lemore for adding SPI support to Bus.io to make SPI-ifying Arduino drivers even easier.
Right. Note that's
and doing it in,
Bus.io for Arduino.
Yes, my apologies. It's Adafruit Bus.io, which is the kind of equivalent to the register library for Arduino. And if you haven't seen it, you should take a look. It makes making Arduino drivers super easy.
Nice.
So yeah, she pulled that off in like, I don't know, like 3 hours or something. Half of it was probably eating tacos. I don't know. So yeah, congrats, or thanks for that. And also thanks for pointing out some room for improvement on aborted designs. Let's see, who else? Hugs to D. Hirata, Dylan, for being awesome and becoming a CircuitPython librarian, taking on more stuff, and generally kicking butt. As always, the help is appreciated, and it's really nice to see someone come on and go full bore at helping out. Last but not least, thanks to Katney for helping me out with fritzing yet again. I'll figure it out one of these days. Right, thanks.
Awesome, thanks, Sedacious. All right, Summersoft.
Hello.
Hello.
So I've got a belated, I'm pretty sure it's belated hug to Carter for the Display IO guide. I think it was published at least a week ago, if not two. I haven't gotten into utilizing displays just yet, but I'm sure that once I do, that will be indispensable. Group hug for everybody beyond that, and then a non-CircuitPython hug to the maintainers of new Screen and Awk, because their docs are pretty awesome, and it helped me this weekend as I learned to use them.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll totally take hug reports for non-CircuitPython stuff. It's always good to say thank you to folks. So thank you, Summersoft. Okay, and that is it for hug reports. I think we got everybody. And now for status updates. So status updates are done in a similar fashion as a round robin, and it's kind of like what you've done in the last week and what you plan on doing in the coming week. It's a really good way for people to get on the same page and be aware of who's doing what. And it's also great if you have any tips or tricks or pointers to the folks in the work that they're doing. That's a great way to give those as well. So I will start, and we'll go around in the circle or round robin as we did before. So last week I released release candidate 3. and that was super easy, pretty straightforward. I improved grouped so that it would be, well, I should say, when I released RC3, I branched master from 4.0x. So there is a branch now for the 4.0.x releases. So this, I improved group to be iterable and have index and remove functions. Those are not going to be in 4.0 because they are on master and they are not on that 4.0 branch. So whenever you're doing changes, please be aware of that anything going into master now will go out with 4.1, which may not be too far from now, but just be aware of that. Last Thursday recorded a podcast Dunder and Knit, which I said earlier, and it was made live yesterday. So there's a link in the notes for that. I guess we could just drop it in the Discord as well. The language summit that I did, there's also a blog post for that. So that's out. So that's definitely past work that I'm talking about. For the weeds, I just wanted, as I hinted earlier, I think we're thinking about doing 4.0 today. So brainstorm if there's any reason you don't think we should do that, and we'll cover that a little bit later. But the general feeling on the Adafruit side is that we're ready. I said for my notes, I said, do we need an RC4 for minor changes on the 4.0x branch? Or should we just stick a fork in it and call it done and make it 4.0? I think we're leaning towards the latter. So think about that, and we'll circle back in the weeds. I'm out Thursday through next Wednesday. I'm traveling for a friend's wedding and visiting my grandma. So I won't be back kind of in my desk or at my desk until next Thursday, starting this Thursday. So out a week. We have a fork emoji. We have two. All right. So I was working at the end of last week. I was working at changing the way Display IO computes what's on the screen. It currently was pixel by pixel based, and that and I'm speeding it, or I'm changing it to be kind of rectangular. So for this whole rectangle, here's a buffer, fill it in as best you can sort of process. And that speeds up, it speeds up scenes where there's lots of different tile grids, because for every tile grid you had to check, like, is that in the pixel? And that really slowed it down. But if you lump pixels together into a rectangle, you can do that check once against where the tile grid is, and you save a lot of time because you're doing that check a lot less. So that's been cool. I plan on getting that in either right before I leave or right after I get back. And then that's kind of part 1 of 2 of speeding up the Display IO stuff in general. The second half will be actually computing what portions of the screen, what rectangles of the screen to actually update, rather than updating the whole screen every time. So we'll see should see a pretty big speed up for most times where the screen is just being updated in a very small place. It still won't help the whole like screen refresh, but yeah, we're making progress there. So that's kind of what I'm planning on in the next few days. 4.0 if we say yes to it, and then finishing up the like switch from pixel by pixel to areas or rectangles. So that's my status update. Let's circle back, and I will read off Brent, who lost internet at HQ. So Brent said, last week, nothing CircuitPython related. Spent last week finishing up finals week and feeling very relieved now. This week, started a new library before I left. Hope to wrap it up today and write it up tomorrow. It's the Adafruit _CircuitPython _Azure IoT library. It provides access to Microsoft's Azure's powerful IoT platform for CircuitPython devices. This is an advanced platform compared to Adafruit IO. If you're starting to scale an IoT project or want to use something which can support hundreds of nodes easily, Azure is a paid service. I guess if you want to support hundreds of nodes easily, That's what Azure is for. Note, Azure is a paid service. Be careful if you want to beta test this, and carefully monitor your data usage to make sure you don't go over the minimums, I assume. C. Grover is looking, so we'll go to Charles.
Well, my various projects for MIDI are some are actually coming to an end. My breath controller seems to work consistently now.
Nice.
More my next little trick for my next little trick, I want to get the fingering keyboard working so I can actually make use of the breath controller for something other than just volume alone, volume alone. And then I would like to make a modular keyboard, where you can build a one octave keyboard, build the keyboard in one octave increments. So that's what I'm doing. Gonna see if that works. Okay.
Cool.
The question comes is being able to read multiple 23017s like a loop. Because one octave will fit nicely into one of those MCP 23017s. And as you add more octaves, you have to be able to have objects for each one. I've never learned a technique to be able to use objects as parameters. So
that'll be a good start then.
Yeah, that's a good way to learn it, I guess. Thank you.
Thanks, Charles. All right, let's go on to Dan.
Hi. Okay. I spent a lot of time with UF2 bootloaders last week, making them on the Pi badge and similar boards. There's a splash screen. Actually, when the board comes up in the bootloader, it shows a nice display and says, "This is the UF2 bootloader," and it has some icons showing you how to load things. But it was not displaying the text quite right. It wasn't centering it right. So I fixed that. We made some minor changes in conjunction with Microsoft for the Pi badge and Pi badge low cost LC and the Pi Gamer, turning some features on and off, and adding the light sensor so that MakeCode could use that. And so there's a new release of the bootloader. You don't really need it unless you're using Pi badge. Don't bother to update your bootloaders on any other board. That just works fine. The thing I mentioned during the Hug reports, I have a PR for the round function, and I started working on BLE stuff for 4.1, starting to work on BLE Scanner, which is a central operation. But a lot of people want that just to be able to find beacons and things like that. Like, what are the BLE devices that I can hear from where I am? So I will continue to work on BLE stuff. That's the major focus for the next few weeks.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, Dan. All right. I will read off D. Hirata, who says, I was able to finish adding all of the location and GPS related NMEA sentences that the GPS Featherwing supports. I was also able to do a bunch of testing, and I learned even more about the NMEA protocol. I put out a release for that and was able to use the new features in a personal project I was working on. I was also able to fix a few issues and merge some PRs and close some issues that had been left open. This week, I want to do some more testing on the MCP 23008 and the MCP 23017 modules to make sure that there aren't any issues with the recently refactored MCP 230XX library. So thank you, D. Hirata. All right. Doc Malo is text only. Says submitted pull request for Nina firmware repo. No code changes, but updated documentation to reflect current build process and requirements for building. And also submitted a pull request to the ESP32 SPI library to add WPA2 enterprise support to the Wi-Fi manager library. Awesome. So glad you could make the meeting. All right. Katney.
Hello. So, last week, still recovering from PyCon. I was there for 9 days. It was amazing, but it definitely takes a bit to get back into things. I continued working on the PyBadge guide, got through part of the pinouts page. Before I left, I had already done a lot of the CircuitPython stuff for it, including the pinouts images. So the pinouts page has just been basically putting the documentation in. I need to get it to a point where it's ready for Lemoore. And that is what is happening this week. So this week, Library Monday, I need to go through our 38 open pull requests and see what is going on with those. Also, we're going to be updating the circuitpython.org/libraries page sometime today, and finalize Travis for that page so it'll do it automatically. There's just a couple things we need to do, Summersoft and I need to sit down and take care of that. So we'll get to that this week, and that way it'll actually be updated and we won't have to do it manually. This week also, I'm going to be doing a blog post. It'll be a wrap up for PyCon. Basically, it's as much for us as it is to post as a blog post, just to have all of our final thoughts in one place. It was after talking to Phil about it, he suggested I actually do a blog post, and even though it's all of our thoughts, it would be good to share with other people. So we want to do that sometime this week. I'm also going to be working on the fritzing objects for the PyBadge and the PyGamer. Both of those are going to be tricky ones, so I'll be doing that over the course of the week, and the PyGamer guide is next. And other than that, I plan on there were some photos that we took while we were at PyCon that Phil wanted for various reasons, and I need to go through those and process those, and then we will be kind of ready to wrap up PyCon for sure finally, and that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Katney. Okay, let's Kinger North and KJW are lurking, so we're going to Maker Melissa.
Okay, last week I worked on writing my guide for the multi-language PyBadge code. It's pretty close. Worked on the next phase of the Arduino library updates for displays. And I assisted with getting the Orange Pi R1 Blinka implementation tested, and hopefully it'll get done soon. I tested the e-paper display fix for an issue with single bytes not being checked and got that merged in. And I tested the Arduino GFX code update from Paint Your Dragon. Next week, I'm going to be finishing up that PyBadge guide. Getting some work done on the display I/O using breakouts and shields guide, and I'll start closing some more of the Arduino display library issues and pull requests. Finish up with that Orange Pi R1 stuff and start working on some Odroid board Blinka implementations.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. All right.
Thanks.
Let's go to Mike.
Okay, real quick. I want to let you know that Scott added some nice things in the bootloader. You can get into safe mode and various status LEDs and all kinds of good stuff. It's been talked about before, and it's even been talked about before that I've made a little chart that helps visually guide you if you're kind of visually keyed in like I am. If you go to any of the Adafruit boards and look under the page that says UF2 bootloader, they pretty much all should mirror in that chart. And so you can go in and see what the bootloader is doing, and if you feel like you need to get into safe mode or want to know what kind of status you're getting, that chart should help you. If there's any other problems, if you see the charts issue or something, you can report it, and I'll make sure and tweak it. And the last thing I wanted to make sure everybody knew about the CircuitPython Python and Microcontrollers newsletter. It goes out every week from adafruitdaily.com, zero spam. And I encourage you to join and keep up on all things CircuitPython. It will go out tomorrow morning, so if you're really looking to join, go to adafruitdaily.com. It's different from the main Adafruit site. They keep all the stuff separate, so there's no like mailing list spam or anything. So I hope you'll consider joining the newsletter. And that's about it for me this week.
Sweet. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for keeping everything running. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
All right. We're going to do Sudacious and Summersoft, and then we'll circle back to Lady Ada as well. So go ahead.
All right. So last week I did some driver work for the BD34 involving also some debugging of the CircuitPython driver because I2C is not happy. So I'll have to figure that out. Limor gave me a good tip. I also did a revision of the board to add support for 3-band EQ, which will be nice to have. Let's see what else. I started work on the LPS 35 guide involving, writing all the stuff up and the fritzing stuff that Katney helped me with. I started a OLED project, very early days, but it's going to be interesting. I also started a personal project that's super top secret, and it's going to be totally amazing. Don't ask. You'll see it eventually. Next up, I'm working on taking the work that Limor did on adding SPI to the Adafruit bus.io library to add SPI to the LPS35 driver and test that out and make sure it works and all that stuff. I got to do more fritzing that I'm actually doing right now. More board work as always, and I have to vet some more drivers on a Raspberry Pi. And probably lots of other stuff too. All right, that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Sudacious. All right, Summersoft.
All right. So last week for the Dunder Init going into NPY Cross when bundled for CircuitPython build tools, that PR was merged in. I waited a couple days, made a release, but the new Travis YAML with the PR tests in it failed to trigger the deployment. So I went back through some iterations on the Travis YAML on my own fork. I think I have it working. I need to put the PR in. And then, so a few weeks ago, I don't know how this got started in my head, but I started thinking about a Raspberry Pi based Rosie. We haven't had Rosie in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just kind of thinking about it. And then finally enough of those random design thoughts popped in and collected. And I was like, all right, I at least have to start the experiment. So I started the experiment over the weekend. I currently have a Python script that is sending commands to a Metro M4 through USB and screen, and it is reading the output from the Metro's REPL. And it's all screen is invoked using a bash script. The discovery of the Metro or any board is done in a way in that you don't have to hard code any particular TTY, mount to it. So it just looks through the various bits of information, at least in Linux, and then determines, okay, this is the board I want. This is the address I want. So it's kind of working. Oh yeah, I meant to put up a screen capture. Where is it? So that's kind of where I'm at. Here's a bit of an image of at least what it looks like from a dev perspective. So that was pretty much all my weekend. So then this coming week, once my Raspberry Pi 3 is delivered, I will start to set it up so I can test and move it over to a natural habitat, and continue building out the test controller framework. And then I've got a couple open issues on Adabot to work on for non.py files, tripping the missing sensor name error, and release notes, documenting a proper contributor. Right now, it just shows the person who merged it, not the person who submitted the PR. So,
Right.
and that's all I got.
Sweet. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right. Let's circle back to Lady Ada. No audio. Okay. I can read stuff off. Thanks, Summersoft. All right. We have some in the weeds stuff, so we'll let Lady Ada let us type stuff out, and then we'll circle back to that.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh no.
Okay.
There you go.
Hi. I know this is exciting. My computer keeps wanting to do something else with my phone. I did the last weekend. I did the Coral Blinka support and added Sisyphus PWM, and then I saw the Giant Board folks were also trying that out, and we want to get a bunch more Blinka boards done because it's getting pretty stable and it's quite popular, and we have a lot of demand. So if there's people out there who have single board Linux computers other than a Raspberry Pi, which is well supported, like we're talking all the onion, raspberry, like lychee, whatever different fruit and food pies that are available. Again, I can get you going because there's definitely like 5,000 different spun out versions of like the Odroid or whatever. A lot of CircuitPython stuff this week. I did a bunch of hardware design. We're going to try to get the Airlift Featherwing out this week, and some sensors and such. So I guess that's CircuitPython related. We're going to have a batch in the store this week, so please sign up. I will give advance notice in the CircuitPython channel. But other than that, we'll notify people once all the CircuitPython folks get. That's all my news.
How about Hug reports?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we had an internet outage and like everything's confusing.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just reminding you.
Big hug report to Maker Melissa, who's going to be doing some more stuff with us, including some of this Blinka work. It's going to be awesome. Sedacious, who is tackling a very complicated Arduino library stuff and doing really good. We're going to get a bunch of hardware done this summer, and I'm very excited for that. Dan for fixing up bootloaders and getting them released. It makes my life really easy. And then hug report to Brent, who finished his first year of grad school. Congratulations, Brent. He'll be doing CircuitPython stuff all summer. It'll be super fun, and then back to school with you in the fall. But in the meantime, it's slip and slides and Wi-Fi and Azure and all sorts of another deliciousness. And I think that's all my hug reports. Thank you.
Sweet. Thanks, Lamore. All right. And that is the end of, I almost said hug reports, but actually status updates. Let's go to In the Weeds. We have three things listed here. If you have more stuff you want to talk about in the weeds, please drop a note in the text channel for CircuitPython or just in the notes directly. And we'll start with Doc Mullo says, I'd appreciate some guidance and or a review of my PR on the ESP32 SPI library. It's pull 45. There's a link in the notes. There are some checks that are failing, and I'm not sure how folks would prefer I move forwards. Add options so Pylint ignores those issues on that file, or resolve the actual issues. If so, how? Yeah, we'll have to take a look. There's one check I can think of right now, which is like the too many arguments one. You can fix by using keyword only arguments, which is a tool I don't think we use enough, but we should. keyword only means that when you use that argument, you have to say like the name of the argument equals. And the way to do that is kind of esoteric, but it's like you do your argument list and then you do a star, comma, and then everything after that is going to be keyword only. And you can actually not give it a default value either, and it'll still require it as a keyword arg, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm going to let, I saw somebody in the doc just click through to that. So I think we'll get back to you on that. If people don't in the next 24 hours, feel free to ping me directly and I'll take a look too. All right. I think, yeah. Kattni is typing, so I imagine that's the I'll look today on Library Monday. And then let's go to Charles for the question that he had. Charles, there you go.
The question I have is I want to have the keyboard modules will each have a 23017 in them to pick up the individual keys. Now the problem comes is when I want to put together more than one of them. Right. I can change. I will have a mechanism for changing the address, but I still have to be able to read, a list of say up to about four of them to cover a normal 88 key keyboard. 4 MCP 23017s. The other alternative is to stick a microcontroller in between the 2317 and the main board, and just output the MIDI messages via USB.
Right.
Just wire them together via USB. I think that I just was hoping there's an easy way to create multiple multiple MCP 23017 objects from one I2C item.
Right. So the challenge, there's 3 address pins on the MCP 23017, so you can have up to 8 on the same bus.
Yeah.
It's just a question of like how those address pins get set.
What I do is I was thinking of putting just basically a four switch dip switch,
right?
Dip switch in there, and you set the dip switch depending on which octave you're designating.
Right.
That's not too difficult. The hardware is easy. It's just making sure that it can figure out. Okay, I have this address, and this address, so I have to discover which addresses are there.
Yeah, that's pretty. There's a I2C scan that you can run that will give you that.
Yeah, I suppose I could include that. Is there a CircuitPython version of that?
Yes.
Code?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, that solves my problem. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, and it just brute forces. It just tries all addresses.
I know what group of addresses it is, and I'll just scan those. I'll go scan and then look for them.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. And I think the last thing we have to talk about is 4.0. Is anybody worried about doing a 4.0 release today based on the 4.0x branch? So that's RC3 plus a couple changes like adding the capable robots USB hub and adding Pygamer to the build. It's gonna be crickets.
We're all ready for it, Scott.
Just pull the trigger.
Go ahead and stick the fork in.
All right. We did get some forks earlier. All right. I will tag it now, basically. Should I do it on the stream?
Yes.
You all won't be able to see it though, but you'll be able to go watch it later. Oh,
It shows up in the channel when you make a tag.
It does. That's true. I'm gonna mount my. I haven't actually done CircuitPython since I restarted my laptop.
Give it a few minutes. Give it a minute or two to digest the fact that you're paging it and flagging it, and it should pop up saying, "I'm doing it."
I've got changes that I've got to commit first.
Those will show up first, I guess.
They'll just go on my branch. Blah. Rebase is great. All right, git fetch Adafruit. Git checkout Adafruit 40x. And the tag is AAE7CB. Which sounds right to me. Let me just double check.
Okay, now comes the fun part. I got to go through all 15 of my project boards and update. Right. Properly.
All right, it's tagged, and I think that let me move it here. I don't think I leaked credentials. Heyo.
There it is. New tag just created, 4.0.0.
Hooray!
Just showed up on the CircuitPython.
Mm-hmm. I have to add. I think my favorite emoji is ta-da. All right, and with that, let's call it a day. Thank you to everybody for joining the meeting. This happens regularly on... Charles, can you mute, please?
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
Beg your pardon.
This meeting happens regular on Mondays. Reminder, next week will be on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Next week is Tuesday. It's normally Monday. It happens on the Adafruit Discord channel, which you can join through the URL adafru.it/discord. It has been recorded, so check the Adafruit YouTube, youtube.com/Adafruit for the full video recording, and that will include me tagging it. And there are audio-only versions that go out to podcast services in many places, so check those out as well. Also, as Mike was saying, if you haven't already, please sign up for the Python on Microcontrollers newsletter, which is adafruitdaily.com. It's a separate site, separate list of emails, so that will not overlap with adafruit.com stuff. So rest assured that that's the place. If you like writing for newsletters, we're always looking for folks to help contribute to that. So if you're interested, the drafts are done at github.com/Adafruit/CircuitPython-weekly-newsletter, I believe. It's at the bottom of the newsletter as well. So check that out if you want to help us create the newsletter. So all your Python and all of your MicroPython info can go there as well. So I think that's it. Thank you everybody for all of your help with 4.0. I'm happy to see it go out the door and get it out. I think people are going to really like all of the new stuff we've done, including the translations. Particular shout out to the translation folks. So thank you all. I will be out next week, so Katney and folks will be here, but I will not be. So thank you in advance to Katney for running the meeting and all of those of you who will attend, and I will see you personally in 2 weeks, and everybody else you'll get to hang out next Tuesday. So thanks everybody. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks everyone.